Hi, and welcome to Sibos 2020, the first time we've ever had a virtual Sibos event. Welcome to all of you and wherever you are right now in the world. Now, the reason why we are here today is because I have with me Andreas Burner, who is head of SmartStream's Innovation Lab in Vienna. My name is Victor Anderson. I work for an organization called InfoPro Digital, and I'm Global Content Director of a brand called WatersTechnology. Now, something very exciting has happened recently, or in conjunction with Sibos 2020, and that is the launch of SmartStream AI version 2. Now, a little bit about the history of this particular application, this product. SmartStream AI version 1 was launched exactly a year ago. It's a cloud-native application that is designed to massively reduce processing times when it comes to rule-based reconciliation tasks. Now, exactly a year on, we are just about to celebrate the launch of version 2. Now, I understand it's all about observational learning, in addition to various other features embedded within the platform. Now, also just a little bit more information about this particular product. I have worked with Andreas and other employees at SmartStream to produce a white paper on the new functionality and the features, advantages, benefits, etc. of the platform, and that will be available on the SmartStream website for free download during the course of Sibos 2020. So, Andreas, firstly, it's really good to see you again. Welcome to the virtual Sibos 2020. What have you been up to? I understand that you've got a new product. This is SmartStream AI version 2. And it's all about observational learning. As I mentioned, there are additional features, but the kind of the headline feature here is observational learning. So, Andreas, do you want to talk a little bit about why observational learning is so efficient, especially when it comes to a task as complex and as time intensive as reconciliations?
Yeah, thank you, Victor. Nice meeting you again. So, yes, observational learning is a big research topic in SmartStream. We have been researching that for more than a year now, because what we see in the business departments is you can do a lot with machine learning, but what is really missing is a personal assistant that can help you do your job. And I'll come later to that, how that helps business users. But the concept of observational learning comes from psychology, and basically it's a very efficient way that humans learn. Actually, children do that. They observe how adults do something, and then they mimic that.
Yes.
And I'll give you an example. For example, when a kid learns how to tie shoelaces,
Yeah.
if you think about describing that to a kid, it's impossible, right? That he has to take something and turn something, and it's impossible. But if you show him or her a couple of times how to do that, the kid will be able to understand what you're doing, and it's very native to humans to observe and to mimic. And you can also see that in the older generations, when you look at YouTube videos how to cook something or how to do a certain sport. We as human much more like to see something and then learn from that than reading it, right? And also for the trainer, it's easier to show something, how to hold a hand or how to do something, than to write it down. So that's actually observational learning. And based on that concept, we have created a machine learning technology, supervised machine learning technology. We call in SmartStream Affinity. It's a super efficient way to watch business users, what they do, and then to help them do that work.
Right. Okay. So Affinity was the name of the project to develop this observational learning functionality and then embed it within the platform, right?
Correct. So Affinity is the AI component that we have created, and now it's embedded in SmartStream AI version 2. and
Yep.
it's being embedded in all our other products.
Okay, good. Now, I think we need to be clear here as well. This is not a new product. It's a new version of SmartStream Air, right? It's not a
Correct. Yeah.
kind of a standalone, separately developed new offering on the marketplace. This is just a kind of um, the latest iteration of SmartStream Air, correct?
Yeah, that's correct. So all current clients, they get
Yeah.
it with the version update.
Yes.
It's a cloud product, so they will immediately see that update and can use Affinity for their use.
Okay, good. All
Mhm.
right, let's talk a little bit more about observational learning. Why does it transform and optimize business as we know it? In other words, um, how can the technology be applied to existing applications or existing tasks within capital markets firms to literally kind of transform them, and alleviate a lot of burden on humans who otherwise would be required to manage those tasks?
Mhm. So I think, Victor, I have to take you away to an example
Yeah.
from a very different domain. Yeah. So the example I want to give you is we go into an empty room, and I take three card decks of poker cards,
Hmm.
and I just throw them into the air, and they land on the floor randomly, right? And now I give you the task to collect the cards in a certain order. I tell you some rules. Pick up the
Yeah.
twos and pick up the threes with the fours. Don't pick up the aces and so on. And you start doing that. And if you think about that task, that's super time intensive, right? You pick up a
Right.
card and you have to find all similar cards that relate to that card, right? And that's very comparable with what we do at the moment with checking data integrity and with reconciliations, because we get
Yeah.
arbitrary records and we have to find relations to that records. And what Affinity does is, so we now put Affinity to the room. It's our virtual assistant to you.
Hmm.
And as soon as you pick up a card, it watches you what other card you pick up. Yeah. And it will watch you 2 or 3 times, and then what it will do is really amazing. Yeah. The next time you pick up a card and Affinity feels confident that it knows what card you're looking for, it will
Yeah.
take all the cards from the room and pull it really close to you so that they are just next to the card that you have picked up. So all you have to do is now not search for the card, but just look at the suggestions Affinity took and pick up all those cards. And we see in our POCs that Affinity is super efficient in doing so. So it will, after a few examples, it has observed how you pick
Yeah.
up those cards. It will always get you the right cards together, and you can pick them up and think about how more efficient you are by reconciling that poker card deck, or
Mm.
actually as a business user reconcile real data, right? You are getting, as a business user, a virtual assistant that always hands you the best records based on what it has observed, and that's really changing business completely.
Yep. Now you mentioned, Andreas, you mentioned POCs, and I know that SmartStream has done a number of POCs at organizations, at banks around the world. In a previous conversation, you and I discussed a POC that SmartStream had done with a bank, with a
Mhm.
large bank, and the bank had presented SmartStream and Affinity with a very large, complex data set. Now, um, the AI was exposed to this data set, or the started working on the data set, and you said that your response to what actually happened, what transpired, was astonishing. Do you want to talk a little bit about
Mhm.
that scenario where everybody was kind of watching the AI at work, and it came out with some astonishing
Mhm.
responses, and not only talk about the reduction in time to produce the results, but also in terms of the accuracy, because results without accuracy is kind of a pointless exercise. The accuracy has to be 100%, right? When
Yes,
reconciling,
true.
especially very large, complex data sets. So do you want to talk a little bit about that scenario?
Yeah, certainly. So that was one of the success stories that we have seen while we developed Affinity. It was a tier one bank that approached us, and they have about a matching rate that is about between 80 and 90%. So it's already quite efficient how they use our tools to reconcile. But then they found out to make it more efficient, they would have to create additional rules. And we told them that there might be a better way to do so. And the interesting thing about Affinity is that I told you before about suggestions, but Affinity can also be used once you feel certain that all suggestions are correct. It can be used in batch so that you don't even have to pick up a card. It will automatically do everything for you, and you just get the sorted deck of cards. And this is what we have done for that bank. They had about 7,000 manual data matches they have to do every day, which is a lot of work if you think about it.
Yep.
And we applied Affinity to learn from their past matches, so from their last 3 weeks of manual matches. And then we applied it, then we asked Affinity to suggest groups for the next day, for the following day, and so on. And the results were unbelievable. So we had immediately an additional matching rate of those 7,000 records of about 50%. And the accuracy was very, 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 very good. Depending on how we then tweaked the AI, it became accurate between 0.1% to a little bit more. So it was really accurate. And that also has to do how users have done their manual matches, right? Because sometimes also users are not right when it becomes later during a day. So we compared it to the actual matches a user has then done on that day. So if you think about that, that is $1 million business case that we did there, right? 7,000 records need a lot of manual touch points. Several business users had to cope with reconciliation each day. The numbers of transactions are continuously increasing around the world, so they had problems coping with that amounts of data. And by applying Affinity, we have proved that we can halve their manual touch points. We can resolve 50% of their manual touch points, and that's really amazing. So that was one of the examples we have seen by applying Affinity to tier one banks.
Good. Okay, Andreas, let's talk a little bit about the lessons that you and your team of data scientists, mathematicians, etc., in Vienna. Obviously, you've got a kind of core innovations team that you head up. What are the lessons that you and your team have learned during POCs that you've been running at various organizations around the world? In terms of, clearly there would have been a lot of validation, a lot of kind of confirmation bias, understanding and seeing the results that the AI was producing that you were expecting. But what about the unexpected things that emerged during the course of those POCs? Was there anything of particular interest that you want to share with us?
Yeah, there was one example where we were working for a broker in US. And they do have a very complex data set where we also had to check the integrity and see whether records are missing or outstanding. And we applied Affinity on that data set at a very early point in time where it was only beta. And so big data set, complex data set, and the references to group that data are very hidden in the data, so not obvious for the user. Also, the users it takes them a long time to check that data set. And we applied affinity to that, and a user did the first click, and affinity observed that click and got very, very confident that it can reconcile the rest of the data set. And we couldn't believe that after one click, all the other records can be reconciled. And I think it took us 2 days to check what was actually going on. And the thing is, and that's so amazing, and it's completely unexpected, is actually affinity was right. After one click, we could reconcile the whole data set. And the thing was that it not only learned from the click of a user, so a user has clicked one record and other records that belong to each other, but it also learned, it observed that a user has not clicked on other records. And that's an observation that is very strong, because it could see that a user has not clicked on 1,000 other records, and it learned from that. And on the next click a user did, it could exclude so many records that the ones that remained were the right matches. So it learned from exclusion. And the thing is, you never would do that as a human, because you don't have the capacity to look at 1,000 records, whether they match or not. So that was really interesting to see.
That's a great example, because I was going to ask you a little bit about, typically how the AI actually works, and it works in a very unhuman way, right? Humans look for they process by inclusion, whereas this is kind of exactly the opposite. The AI processes and makes decisions based on excluding data that actually isn't relevant to that particular task right now, correct?
Yeah, it does both. It looks on inclusions and exclusions. Whatever is the strongest in the neural network will make the prediction. And for that task, the exclusions were so strong that the remaining records met the inclusion criteria 100%, and therefore it was a match. And it's really unbelievable, because even I and my guys in the lab that are really experts on that technology, we did not expect that will happen. We thought we will need a couple of clicks, maybe 10 or 15 user interactions, but it only needed one. So that's amazing, and it shows how much potential that technology has also to our existing clients, right? Each day they work on reducing manual touch points, and we cannot estimate how much machine learning and AI technology will help them. We only have a good feeling that it will be very usable, but we don't. I think we all underestimate business cases of machine learning and AI at the moment.
Okay, good. Andreas, next question to you is, let's talk a little bit more about the other functionality, the other features within SmartStream AI version 2. Clearly, the observational learning is as I mentioned at the top of this interview, that's the headline functionality. But what are the additional functions that you're excited about?
Yeah, so SmartStream AI version 2 became more flexible and more intelligent. We have the AI that we created last year that auto-generates the rule set for checking data integrity of big data sets in place. And now we are using affinity to make the AI even stronger. But beside that, we have put a lot of customer requests into AIR. We are now PCI DSS compliant. That's a payment standard or a payment messages standard when you want to prove that your software is bulletproof in the cloud. And we are certified. SmartStream is also SOC certified and ISO certified. So I would say SmartStream AI version 2 became much more secure and proves its security to the market. And it got a lot of new features that are useful for many more data sets.
Yep. Okay. Final question before I let you go, Andreas, and that is, let's talk a little bit about how attendees at Sibos 2020 can get a demo of the product. How would they go about arranging for a product demo?
Yeah, so at Sibos we show SmartStream AI version 2. We show different scenarios of banking, financial and corporate data sets that show how it can be used in different scenarios and how effective it is. And we can be approached any time. So we have our sales team ready to show demos and to discuss certain scenarios or problems potential clients may have.
Yep.
But what we also do is we also have espresso webinars, which is a SmartStream initiative to show product functionality in a very short time. So we will show in 10 minutes what SmartStream AI version 2 is all about, show the highlights so that somebody that doesn't have a lot of time can get a good overview. And we will also show affinity in that time frame so that somebody can really see how easy it is to be used and how effective it is by suggesting things to the user, helping a user to reach higher matching rates.
Good. Andreas, one final question to you, and that is the version 2 has just been launched in conjunction with Sibos 2020. When do you believe you'll have your first kind of live production environments running the platform?
It's already live. So version 2 is already in production in the cloud. Affinity is something we rolled out for some of our environments already to do our POCs and to prove it. And at Sibos we will roll it out to our users.
Okay. Good. All right. Let's leave it there, Andreas. You've been brilliant. Thank you very much. It's really good to see you again. Good to catch up, and hopefully, it's been a while, but hopefully we'll be able to catch up in person sometime. Although, given the recent news coming out of the UK and other parts of Europe, we might have to be patient. But again, thank you very much for your time and your expertise. As I mentioned, my name is Victor Anderson. I am Global Content Director for WatersTechnology. It's been a pleasure chatting to Andreas, and it's been a pleasure introducing this new product to you all at Sibos 2020. I hope that all of you watching this clip have a really good Sibos 2020. I hope there's lots of interesting content for you, and that perhaps next year we'll all be able to get together, not virtually, but actually in person at some point in some place around the world. Anyway, thank you all very much indeed for your time.
Thank you.